The Earth floats gently through space, a quiet sphere of blue and white and green, turning slowly beneath the stars. It is our home, this soft planet, the third world from the sun, neither too close nor too far, but settled in a space where water can exist in all its forms, where life can take hold and spread across continents and oceans. The Earth is round, a shape that allows it to hold an atmosphere close, like a blanket wrapped around its surface, keeping warmth near and protecting everything below from the harshness of space beyond. From far away, if you could drift back through the darkness and look upon our world, you would see it glowing softly, a pale blue marble suspended in the vastness, its surface painted with the quiet colors of ocean and land and cloud. The blue is deep and calming, the color of water that covers most of the planet's face, stretching in great basins and wide seas. The white comes from clouds that drift across the sky, gathering and dissolving, casting shadows on the water below, bringing rain to forests and fields. The green and brown are the continents, the land where mountains rise and rivers flow, where deserts spread their quiet sands and forests grow thick with leaves. The Earth turns slowly, a gentle rotation that takes 24 hours to complete. As it turns, one side faces the sun and is bathed in daylight, while the other side turns away into darkness and experiences night. This rotation is steady and constant, a rhythm that has continued for billions of years, creating the cycle of day and night that we know so well. When the sun rises, light spreads across the landscape, warming the air and waking the world. When the sun sets, darkness settles in, and the stars appear, tiny points of light scattered across the sky. The Earth keeps turning, neither rushing nor slowing, maintaining this peaceful pattern that allows for rest and renewal. The Moon drifts in orbit around the Earth, a companion that has traveled with our planet for most of its existence. The Moon is smaller, a quiet presence in the night sky, reflecting the light of the sun back toward us in soft shades of silver and gray. It takes about 29 days for the Moon to cycle through its phases, from new moon to full moon and back again, a gentle progression that marks the passing of time. The Moon's gravity pulls at the Earth, especially at the oceans, creating the rise and fall of tides. Twice each day, the water at the shore climbs higher, then retreats, a slow breathing motion that the ocean has maintained since the beginning. High tide brings water up the beach, covering rocks and sand, and then low tide draws it back, revealing tide pools and wet sand that gleams in the light. The Earth is tilted slightly as it orbits the sun, a gentle lean of about 23 degrees. This tilt is what creates the seasons, the slow progression from spring to summer to autumn to winter, and then back again. When one hemisphere is tilted toward the sun, it receives more direct sunlight and experiences warmer weather, while the other hemisphere tilts away and grows cooler. As the Earth continues its orbit, the situation reverses and the seasons shift. This happens gradually, over the course of months, a gentle transition that allows life to adapt and prepare. Spring brings longer days and the return of warmth, summer offers abundant sunlight, autumn cools the air and changes the colors of leaves, and winter brings shorter days and a quiet stillness to the land. The oceans cover most of the Earth's surface, vast bodies of water that connect and flow into one another, creating a single global ocean that wraps around the continents. The water is in constant motion, though often the movement is slow and subtle. Currents flow like rivers within the sea, carrying warm water from the equator toward the poles and bringing cold water back toward the tropics. These currents move steadily, circulating heat around the planet, helping to regulate temperature and creating a more balanced climate. Some currents travel for thousands of miles, completing their loops over the course of years, a patient journey through the depths. Waves form on the ocean surface when wind blows across the water, transferring energy and creating ripples that grow into rolling swells. Even on calm days, small waves continue to move across the sea, their surfaces rising and falling in a rhythmic pattern. When waves reach the shore, they break gently against the sand or rocks, releasing their energy in a soft, repetitive sound that has soothed people for as long as humans have lived near the water. The ocean's rhythm is constant and predictable, a comforting presence at the edge of the land. Beneath the ocean surface, the water is layered into zones, each with its own characteristics. The sunlight that touches the surface begins to fade as you move deeper, filtering through the water in soft shades of blue and green. By a certain depth, the light has become dim and gentle, creating a peaceful twilight zone where creatures drift quietly through the water. Deeper still, the light disappears entirely, and the ocean becomes a place of cold darkness, where the pressure is immense and life moves slowly, conserving energy in an environment where food is scarce. On land, the Earth's surface is shaped into mountains and valleys, plains and plateaus, each formed over millions of years by the slow movements of the planet's crust and the patient work of wind and water. Mountains rise high into the sky, their peaks sometimes covered in snow that never melts, creating a permanent white cap that gleams in the sunlight. These ranges stretch for hundreds or thousands of miles, dividing continents and influencing weather patterns. Air that rises to cross a mountain often cools and releases its moisture as rain or snow on one side, leaving the other side drier, creating different environments on either slope. Rivers flow from high places down toward the sea, carving valleys and canyons as they go. The water moves steadily, sometimes rushing over rocks and sometimes flowing slow and wide through flat plains. Rivers gather water from rainfall and melting snow, carrying it across the landscape, nourishing the land along their banks. Where rivers reach the ocean, they deposit sediment that has been carried from far inland, building deltas that spread out into the water, creating new land at the boundary between river and sea. Deserts spread across parts of the earth where rainfall is rare and the air is dry. These are places of sand and rock, of wide open spaces under a vast sky. The days can be warm or even hot, but the nights often grow cold, as there is little moisture in the air to hold the day's heat. Life in the desert is adapted to these conditions, with plants that store water and animals that are active during the cooler hours of evening and early morning. The landscape is quiet and still, shaped by wind that sculpts the sand into dunes that shift and change over time. Forests grow where there is enough water and warmth to support trees. These woodlands can be dense and green, with tall trees that create a canopy overhead, filtering sunlight into soft patches that reach the forest floor. In tropical regions, forests are lush and full of life, with plants growing in layers from the ground up to the tops of the tallest trees. In cooler climates, forests change with the seasons, their leaves turning colors in autumn and falling to the ground, leaving bare branches through winter until spring brings new growth. Forests are quiet places, where the air is still beneath the trees and the sounds are soft, the rustle of leaves and the occasional call of a bird. The atmosphere that surrounds the Earth is a thin layer of gases held close by gravity, a protective blanket that shields the surface from the harshness of space. This atmosphere is made mostly of nitrogen and oxygen, with small amounts of other gases mixed in. It extends upward for many miles, gradually thinning until it fades into the vacuum of space. The atmosphere is divided into layers, each with its own characteristics. The lowest layer, where we live and where weather occurs, is warm near the surface and grows cooler with altitude. Above that is a layer where the temperature begins to rise again, and higher still are layers where the air is incredibly thin and the environment is very different from what we experience on the ground. The atmosphere does more than just provide air to breathe. It helps to regulate temperature, keeping the Earth warmer at night than it would be without this blanket of gas. It protects the surface from harmful radiation from the sun, filtering out much of the ultraviolet light that could damage living things. It also allows water to exist as vapor, which rises into the air and condenses into clouds, creating the cycle of evaporation and precipitation that brings rain to the land. Sometimes, near the poles, the atmosphere creates a beautiful display of light called the aurora. This happens when particles from the sun interact with gases in the upper atmosphere, causing them to glow in soft curtains of green and sometimes red or purple. These lights shimmer and wave across the sky, a gentle dance of color that appears in the darkness of polar nights. The aurora is quiet and peaceful, a natural light show that has fascinated people for as long as they have lived in regions where it can be seen. The Earth orbits the Sun, traveling in an elliptical path that takes 1 year to complete. The orbit is nearly circular, keeping the Earth at a relatively constant distance from the Sun, which helps maintain stable conditions for life. The Sun itself is a star, a ball of burning gas that provides light and warmth to the Earth and the other planets that orbit it. The Earth is the third planet from the Sun, positioned between Venus, which orbits closer and is much hotter, and Mars, which orbits farther out and is much colder. This middle position, along with the Earth's size and the presence of its atmosphere, creates conditions that are just right for liquid water to exist on the surface, a key ingredient for life as we know it. From a great distance, the Earth appears very small. If you could travel far out into the solar system and look back, our planet would be just a tiny point of light, a pale blue barely visible against the darkness of space. This distant view reminds us of how small the Earth is in the vastness of the universe, and yet it is our home, the place where everything we know exists. All the mountains and oceans, all the forests and deserts, all the cities and fields, all the people and animals and plants, everything is contained on this one small world floating through space. The land and the ocean are in a constant, gentle balance. Water evaporates from the ocean's surface, rising into the atmosphere as invisible vapor. This vapor is carried by winds over the land, where it cools and condenses into clouds. The clouds release their moisture as rain or snow, which falls onto the land, soaking into the soil or flowing across the surface. Some of this water is taken up by plants, some seeps into underground reserves, and some flows into streams and rivers that carry it back to the ocean, completing the cycle. This movement of water around the planet is continuous and patient, a process that has been going on for billions of years. The Earth's surface is constantly changing, though most of the changes happen so slowly that they are impossible to notice in a human lifetime. Mountains are built up by the movement of the Earth's crust, then worn down by wind and water over millions of years. Valleys are carved by rivers, canyons are deepened by the patient work of flowing water, coastlines are reshaped by the action of waves and tides. Even the continents themselves are slowly drifting, moving across the surface of the planet at a rate of just a few centimeters per year. Over millions and millions of years, this slow drift has brought continents together and pulled them apart, creating and destroying oceans, raising mountain ranges and opening vast plains. The clouds that drift across the sky are made of tiny droplets of water or ice crystals, so small and light that they can float in the air. Clouds form when water vapor in the atmosphere cools and condenses, gathering into visible masses that can be white and fluffy or gray and heavy with rain. Some clouds are high and wispy, made of ice crystals that catch the light of the sun, while others are low and thick, blocking out the sun and creating a diffuse, gentle light. Clouds move with the wind, changing shape as they go, sometimes covering the entire sky and sometimes scattered in patches that allow the blue to show through. Rain falls from clouds when the droplets of water inside them grow large enough that they can no longer stay suspended in the air. They fall to the ground, sometimes gently as a light drizzle, sometimes more heavily as a steady rain. Rain nourishes the land, filling streams and lakes, soaking into the soil where plants can reach it with their roots. After the rain, the air is often clear and fresh, and the world seems renewed. Snow forms in clouds when the temperature is cold enough that water vapor freezes directly into ice crystals. These crystals fall slowly through the air, sometimes gathering into larger flakes that drift down and settle on the ground. Snow covers the landscape in a blanket of white, muffling sounds and creating a quiet stillness. In places where snow accumulates, it can last for months, gradually melting in the spring and releasing its water back into the cycle. The Earth has been here for a very long time, about 4.5 billion years. In the beginning, it was a hot, molten world, gradually cooling and forming a solid crust. The atmosphere was very different then, and there was no life. Over time, the planet cooled further, water condensed and fell as rain, filling the low places and creating the first oceans. Life began in these oceans, simple organisms that gradually evolved and diversified, eventually spreading onto the land and into the air. The Earth has changed many times over its long history, through ice ages and warm periods, through the rise and fall of mountain ranges, through the shifting of continents. Yet through all these changes, the planet has remained a home for life, adapting and persisting. The Earth's crust is divided into large plates that fit together like pieces of a puzzle. These plates are in constant, very slow motion, driven by heat from deep inside the planet. Where plates move apart, new crust forms as molten rock rises from below. Where plates come together, one may slide beneath the other, or they may crumple and push upward, forming mountains. Where plates slide past each other, the boundary is a place of friction and occasional sudden movement. This movement of the plates is the force that shapes the Earth's surface over geological time, building and reshaping the continents, creating ocean basins, raising mountain ranges. Volcanoes form where molten rock from deep within the Earth finds a way to the surface. The rock, called magma when it is underground and lava when it flows onto the surface, can erupt gently or more violently, depending on its composition and the pressure beneath. Some volcanoes build up slowly over many eruptions, creating large mountains with gently sloping sides. Others erupt more explosively, creating steep-sided cones. After an eruption, the lava cools and solidifies, becoming new rock that adds to the landscape. Volcanic ash, which is made of tiny fragments of rock and glass, can be carried far by the wind, eventually settling and enriching the soil. The Earth's interior is layered, with a solid inner core at the very center, a liquid outer core surrounding it, a thick mantle of hot, slowly flowing rock, and a thin outer crust on which we live. The core is made mostly of iron and nickel, and it is very hot, heated by the decay of radioactive elements and by the residual heat from the Earth's formation. The movement of the liquid outer core creates the Earth's magnetic field, an invisible shield that extends far out into space and protects the surface from harmful particles from the sun. Glaciers form in places where snow accumulates year after year, slowly compacting into ice. These rivers of ice flow slowly downhill under their own weight, carving valleys and shaping the landscape. Glacier can be found in polar regions and on high mountains where the temperature stays cold enough to prevent the ice from melting. As glaciers move, they pick up rocks and soil, carrying them along and depositing them when the ice finally melts. In the past, during ice ages, glaciers covered much larger areas of the Earth, shaping the land in ways that are still visible today. The polar regions of the Earth are places of ice and cold, where the sun never rises high in the sky and for part of the year does not rise at all. The ice in these regions is thick, in some places miles deep, and it holds a large portion of the Earth's fresh water. The ice reflects sunlight, helping to keep the polar regions cool. The cold air from the poles flows toward the equator, while warm air from the tropics flows toward the poles, creating a circulation of air around the planet that influences weather and climate everywhere. The equator is an imaginary line around the middle of the Earth, where the planet is widest. Here, the sun's rays strike more directly than anywhere else, bringing consistent warmth throughout the year. Near the equator, there are no true seasons as we experience them in higher latitudes, just a gentle variation in rainfall that creates wet and dry periods. The warmth and moisture near the equator support lush tropical forests and vibrant ecosystems, places where life thrives in abundance. The Earth's atmosphere and oceans work together to distribute heat around the planet. Warm air rises near the equator and moves toward the poles, while cool air sinks and flows back toward the tropics. Ocean currents do something similar, moving warm water from the equator toward higher latitudes and bringing cold water back. This movement of air and water helps to moderate temperatures, making the Earth more habitable than it would be if heat stayed where it was absorbed. The sky appears blue during the day because of the way sunlight interacts with the atmosphere. Sunlight is made up of all the colors of the rainbow mixed together, and when it enters the atmosphere, the shorter blue wavelengths are scattered in all directions by the gases and particles in the air. This scattered blue light is what we see when we look up at the sky. At sunrise and sunset, when the sun is low on the horizon, the light has to pass through more of the atmosphere, and the blue light is scattered away, leaving the longer red and orange wavelengths to paint the sky in soft, warm colors. Stars are visible in the night sky when the sun has set and its light no longer overwhelms the fainter light from distant suns. From Earth, we can see thousands of stars on a clear night, each one a sun like ours, some closer and some incredibly far away. The stars form patterns that people have noticed and named, constellations that have been passed down through generations. These patterns are not real groupings of stars but just the result of how they appear from our perspective on Earth. The stars themselves are scattered through space at vastly different distances. The Moon goes through phases as it orbits the Earth, a cycle that takes about 29.5 days. When the Moon is between the Earth and the Sun, the side facing us is in shadow, and we see a new moon, which is essentially invisible. As the Moon continues its orbit, we begin to see a thin crescent, which grows night by night into a half moon, then a gibbous moon, and finally a full moon when the entire face is illuminated. Then the process reverses, and the Moon wanes back to a crescent and then to new again. This cycle has been used to mark time for as long as humans have been observing the sky. Sometimes the Moon passes directly between the Earth and the Sun, and from certain places on Earth, the Sun appears to be blocked, creating a solar eclipse. The sky darkens in the middle of the day, and the Sun's outer atmosphere, called the corona, becomes visible as a soft glow around the dark disk of the Moon. This is a rare and beautiful event that lasts only a few minutes at any given location. Other times, the Earth passes between the Sun and the Moon, and the Earth's shadow falls on the Moon, creating a lunar eclipse. During a lunar eclipse, the Moon doesn't disappear but instead takes on a reddish color as it passes through the Earth's shadow. The Earth is just one of 8 planets that orbit the Sun, part of a solar system that also includes smaller bodies like asteroids and comets, as well as moons that orbit the planets. Beyond the solar system, there are countless other stars, many of which likely have their own planets. The universe is vast and full of such systems, stretching out in all directions farther than we can see. Yet here, on this one small planet, life has flourished, creating a complex web of living things that depend on one another and on the conditions that the Earth provides. The balance of gases in the atmosphere is maintained in part by living things. Plants take in carbon dioxide and release oxygen through photosynthesis, using the energy of sunlight to build their tissues. Animals breathe in oxygen and release carbon dioxide, a complementary process that keeps both gases available. This exchange has been going on for billions of years, creating an atmosphere that supports the kind of life we know. The soil beneath our feet is a mixture of broken-down rock and organic matter, created by the weathering of stone and the decay of plants and animals. It is full of life, from tiny bacteria and fungi to insects and worms, all working to break down organic matter and release nutrients that plants can use. Soil takes a very long time to form, sometimes thousands of years to create just a few inches, and it is essential for growing the plants that feed the world. The Earth's gravity holds everything close to the surface, keeping the atmosphere in place and pulling objects downward. This force is what gives us weight, and it is the same force that keeps the Moon in orbit around the Earth and the Earth in orbit around the Sun. Gravity is a gentle, constant pull that we hardly think about, yet it shapes the structure of the universe, bringing matter together to form stars and planets and moons. Water exists on Earth in 3 forms: liquid, solid, and gas. In the oceans and rivers and lakes, it is liquid. In the polar ice caps and glacier and snow, it is solid. In the atmosphere, it is an invisible vapor. Water moves between these forms easily, evaporating from the ocean to become vapor, condensing in the atmosphere to form clouds, falling as rain or snow, melting and flowing back to the sea. This constant cycling of water is essential to life, distributing fresh water across the land and moderating temperatures. The Earth's rotation creates the Coriolis effect, a subtle influence that causes moving air and water to curve rather than traveling in straight lines. In the northern hemisphere, the deflection is to the right, and in the southern hemisphere, it is to the left. This effect influences the direction of winds and ocean currents, helping to create the large-scale patterns of circulation that move heat and moisture around the planet. As you breathe slowly and deeply, imagine the Earth turning beneath you, a quiet rotation that brings the gentle cycle of day and night. Feel the pull of gravity, holding you softly against the surface, connecting you to this planet that is your home. The air you breathe has traveled around the world, carried by winds, part of the great circulation of the atmosphere. The water in your body was once in the ocean, evaporated into the sky, fell as rain, and made its way to you through rivers and streams and underground reserves. The Earth is a place of slow, patient processes, of cycles that repeat endlessly, of balances maintained over deep time. Mountains rise and erode away, rivers carve their paths, oceans circulate their waters, the atmosphere flows and shifts, all part of a grand, interconnected system that has been operating for billions of years. Life has found a home here, in the thin layer between the rocky surface and the edge of space, in the oceans and on the land, adapting to countless different environments, creating a rich tapestry of living things. As the night deepens and your breathing slows, let your thoughts drift like clouds across the sky, soft and formless, moving gently with the wind. There is no need to hold on to them, no need to follow them anywhere. Just let them pass, as the Earth turns and the stars will overhead in their slow, ancient patterns. The planet beneath you is solid and steady, a home that has been here for longer than we can truly comprehend, and it will continue turning long after this night has passed. Rest now, in the quiet knowledge that you are part of this vast, peaceful system, a small piece of the Earth, connected to everything around you by the air you breathe, the water you drink, the food you eat, all of it drawn from this one blue world floating through space. Let the gentle rhythm of the planets turning carry you into sleep, into the soft darkness where rest and renewal wait. The Earth keeps its patient watch, orbiting the sun, holding you safe, turning slowly through the night.